Edgar, Kay, and Malcolm, they can just speak and there are no questions. For the State House and Senate candidates, we have told you about 2 minutes to speak, then we can ask you some questions, and then we'll let you know 30 seconds ahead of time so you can make final statements. If you just want to speak for all 5 minutes, that is fine too. I do have an alarm that if people go over the 5 minutes, the alarm will go off so that you know it's time to button things up. Okay, I'm going to start sharing the screen and go ahead and get us onto let's see. Okay, I will be going live now. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the Anchorage Democratic Primary Candidate Forum. We're welcoming Anchorage Democrats and Democrats from across Alaska who have joined us, as well as any elected officials in attendance. Thank you for joining us. This forum is designed to be an opportunity for voters in the Anchorage area to hear from candidates and to become more informed about their positions prior to casting primary ballots. We also have special guest speakers who will be talking about the U.S. House, U.S. Senate, and presidential campaigns. We appreciate you considering supporting the candidates speaking today, as well as other Democratic groups and candidates. First of all, I'd like to welcome our speakers. We have Dr. Al Gross, candidate for U.S. Senate, followed by Professor Edgar Blatchford, candidate for U.S. Senate. And then we'll have candidates for state and House races in the Anchorage area that have contested primaries. From House District 15, Lynn Franks and Rick Phillips. From House District 25, Janice Park and Galvin Shrage. From Senate District M, Andy Holleman, with a statement by Anita, Thorne, who could not join us today. And from Senate District N, Lynette, Hinz, and Carl Johnson. We'll close with an update on some federal campaigns. Malcom Phelan will speak about the Alyse Galvin for U.S. House campaign, and former Alaska Representative Kay Brown will be speaking about the Joe Biden 2020 presidential campaign. Before we get started, we want to take a moment to recognize the tragic death of Representative Gary Knopf and several others in a plane crash on Friday. Representative Harriet Drummond was a close colleague of Representative Knopf's. Representative Drummond, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate being allowed to speak this afternoon. I wasn't really prepared to speak. It has been an absolutely tragic week for the House Majority Coalition, as well as the entire legislative family. Gary Knopf was critical to the ability of us to have formed the multi-partisan House coalition, which is the only one of its kind in the United States. I'm going to, I'm not really good with words like this, but I found my former colleague Les Guerra had written a beautiful tribute to Gary, and I'm going to read that to you now. Les Guerra said, "It's crushingly sad that we lost Gary Knopf from this world today. My condolences to his family and all who care so much about him. I have one story about Gary that encapsulates this honest man, a conservative, a true conservative who cared about kids and public education and who always tried his hardest to find common ground and would tell you when he honestly disagreed in the most honorable and least partisan way possible. My last year in the legislature, and remember we're speaking about Les, I was in a bipartisan House majority, and Gary was in the Republican minority as a freshman. Les had a bill to keep education funding up with the cost of inflation, and so wouldn't lose more teachers and educators for our students, and the vote was going to be close. Gary and 4 members of his caucus told me as I was checking to see who agreed with it, and they promised they would support it given the hard hits public education and student opportunity had been taking. Gary was a public education champion. He was a teacher's ally and a children's ally above all. On the day of the vote, all the other minority members came to see me and said they'd changed their mind about supporting the bill. This was classic partisan politics, fighting against good policy for partisan reasons. I went to Gary, who was a freshman, and I said he could get in trouble with his minority caucus if he was the only one on his side to vote for the bill. That's the ugly side in politics, and something Gary had no patience for. I said I probably had enough votes, and regardless, I didn't want him to get in trouble. And he could also vote no if he felt that was the smart thing to do. And Gary said, almost exactly in my memory, I gave you my word. I said I support education and an opportunity for our kids, and I meant it. I don't care what happens to me if I vote for what I believe in. The world needs more men like Gary Knapp. Gary was a compassionate conservative, if labels even can describe people this way. He was the kind of person you would trust without question. He'd sacrifice political power to do what he thought was right. The highest honor in the sometimes awful world of politics is having honor. Gary was an A-plus person. The world and his family have suffered a great loss, and I send my greatest respect for this giant of a man and my prayers to his family. Rest in peace, Gary. You will always have my respect for this and much, much more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Drummond. So before we get started, I want to provide a couple words about the forum format. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to talk. A buzzer will sound when the allotted time has passed. For our guest speakers, they will be able to speak freely and will not have any questions. For our State House and State Senate candidates, we will allow you to speak for 2 minutes, or you have a total of 5 minutes. If you do a 2-minute intro, we will have questions as time allows, and I will provide you a notice of 30 seconds in time for you to provide closing information. When you are speaking, please keep in mind the buzzer and the time limitations. Thank you very much. Our first speaker is Dr. Al Gross. Dr. Gross, would you like to go ahead? Sir, I believe you are muted.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, Michelle, and thanks for all of you for being part of this evening. It's been a really tragic week across the state. My heart goes out to Gary's family, but there was also a horrific accident in Petersburg this week where 4 young kids in their 20s died. I knew really all 4 of them indirectly, and the parents of 2 of them. So it's a really, really sad week. That's Alaska, I guess, and we lose people up here. So unfortunately, that's the reality. We need to minimize that. But for those of you that don't know me, my name's Al Gross. I'm a lifelong Alaskan. I was born and raised in Juneau. My father was the legal architect behind the Permanent Fund and the Permanent Fund dividend alongside Governor Jay Hammond. My dad was the Attorney General. My mom was the founding director of the United Fishermen of Alaska here in the state. She also founded the Alaska League of Women Voters, among many other things. And so I've got really deep roots in the state. I feel very invested in the future of the state. And I grew up commercial fishing I started when I was 14. I fished all over the state in 5 different fisheries for 10 summers, put myself through college and medical school. I came back to Juneau, my hometown, as an orthopedic surgeon where I practiced for 20 years. My wife, Monica, is also a doctor. She's a pediatrician. We met in medical school. And about four years ago, when my kids were for the most part grown up and out of the house, I looked up and saw my country splitting apart. I really didn't like the direction that our state was going. I'd seen that Dan Sullivan was repeatedly voting against healthcare and against the Affordable Care Act, and demonstrated that he really didn't understand what made the economy in Alaska tick and what was holding back the economy. And I just got mad. And I saw a wide open avenue to beat him for the United States Senate. And the future of Alaska is really important to me. The future of my country is really important to me. So I stepped up to run, and I launched back in July. And since then, our campaign has gained a tremendous amount of momentum. Our fundraising has gone extraordinarily well. We've raised approximately $5.5 million since then. Our budget to win this race is approximately $8 million. So we're well on our way to getting to those numbers. We've created a great coalition of people. I appreciate everybody on the Zoom events call that have been helpful in this. We are currently in the midst of opening field offices all across the state. We're building up towards 30 regional organizers, and we're going to have a paid staff in rural villages all across the state to get out the vote, which is especially complicated these days given COVID-19. We launched our media campaign just this last week, and our TV launch ad went viral nationally. In just one day, I ended up with more Twitter followers than Dan Sullivan has accumulated in 6 years. It was a very successful ad. Our campaign has consistently been upgraded by the political ratings organizations, the Cook Report, Sabato. James Carville is now starting to predict that we're going to win the race, and is predicting we can win it by as many as 6 points. There are others that are in agreement with him, and we have polling that supports that, both internal and public. We are expecting to be upgraded again by Sabato's crystal ball within the next week or two. And some of you may know the Lincoln Project is all in on this Alaska race and launched their first ad on my behalf just this last week. They've targeted Alaska, Montana, and Maine as the three states that they're all in on because of the viability of the race. And from what I understand, they've already invested over $1 million in TV ad buys in just the next 10 days. So it's a really exciting race, and I really am thankful to all of you for your help. We've been endorsed by the Alaska Democratic Party, the DSCC, the League of Conservation Voters, Planned Parenthood, and so many other organizations, and we're continuing to build a coalition. And if you haven't already gotten involved with the campaign, please do, and go to our website, click on the volunteer button, and Blake, our field coordinator, will get back to you and find how and work with you as to how you can best help the campaign. So we're working really, really hard. Monica and my kids are very involved with this as well. All 4 of my kids ended up back in Anchorage indirectly because of COVID-19. My oldest son is the director of operations on the campaign now. I never expected my 4 kids would all end up in Anchorage alongside us, but such is the way that it is. And please reach out anytime. I'm happy to hear from you individually or as a group. And I really look forward to working with you towards a victory. And I think that we can flip this seat. It's really important for the future of Alaska that we do that. It's really important for the unity of our country that we do that. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gross. Our next person to speak is Professor Edgar Blatchford, who's also a candidate for U.S. Senate. Professor Blatchford, just a moment, let me get there, and you can go ahead, sir.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this forum. I've spent a lifetime in Alaska, and I believe in the future of this state of Alaska. And I want to say thank you to the Democrats and thank you to the Denina for allowing me to be here today. This is the sacred land of the local people. And I'm just as honored as I am to be your next senator for our fine state of Alaska. I've spent a lifetime in Alaska, as well as a lifetime of learning and service. This is exactly what Alaska needs right now in these very, very difficult times. Not only while we find our way out of the pit of a global pandemic, but also what do we do afterwards. As you learn more about me, you're going to find out that I'm exactly the right person. I will continue steering Alaska towards swift and conscientious financial recovery. Actually, that point is exactly why I chose to run. In early May, I watched with anticipation, just as all of you did, as I continued waiting for our Alaska leadership to guide us to safety. Folks, it just didn't happen. And while I listened, I found myself reflecting because, well, my natural leadership, as well as my Harvard master's degree in public administration, just won't let me stop analyzing. At Harvard Kennedy, we analyzed and analyzed and analyzed. I thought we could do this. I thought we could do this to support the Alaska economy. How do I know? Well, my time serving you and the people of Alaska when I served as Commissioner of Commerce, Community, and Regional Affairs under Governor Hickel. I also learned this when I was in the cabinet of Governor Frank Murkowski as Commissioner of Commerce, Community, and Economic Development. I know how to support Alaska's economy. I know how to promote interactive kindness among all people of this state. And then what do we do with Alaska's rural population? So much more can be done for you out there in rural Alaska. And again, how do I know? Because I am a born and raised Alaska native. I was born in a cabin on the outskirts of Nome, delivered by an Inupiaq Eskimo midwife. I know what it was like to have a dog team during the territorial times. I know what it was like to live a subsistence lifestyle. My dad was a union construction worker, and at that time, you only worked construction during the summers. I've also served as the mayor of Seward and a longtime editor to the local paper in the Bethel area, one of several papers that I edited during the 1990s. I know the focus is on this election for all Alaskans. And then when my mind came to the never before seen financial crisis that Alaska is about to face, I said, I'm going to run. I'm running for senator because my extensive education, my professional experience, and my endless and focused service to the betterment of Alaskans has fully prepared me for this moment. I'm ready and willing to serve the people of Alaska, and I think we can do it. We have a long way to go. We've suffered many handicaps in this great state of ours, and I'm fully committed to serving the people of this state. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Lynn Franks, who's candidate for Alaska State House District 15. And as we go through we're going to move into the State House and State Senate races. So as I say, the next candidate is Lynn Franks, who's a candidate for Alaska State House District 15. Hold on just a moment while I'm right there, but I am having a hard time spotlighting you. Oh, there's
okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lynn Franks. I am running for House District 15 in Upper Northeast Muldoon, and our campaign is going gangbusters, way more intense than 2018. I will be so proud to serve my state in this capacity. You know, not much different from what everybody else wants. We need to get a budget that works for our state. We need to forward fund education and emergency services, you know, needs the kind of things that I plan to do if elected into office. Oh boy, I know I don't have much time, but I just want to just say a couple of things here at this point. One is I've gotten some national endorsements. I've worked really hard, you know, talking to people on the phone, interviewing on Zoom. So far, I have LPAC, I have Victory Fund, I have Alaskans Together for Equality, I have Mothers for Gun Sense, and I'm hope to establish a couple more in the next couple weeks that I'm waiting on answers for. I'm just overwhelmed at the support that I've had this time. The other thing I want to plug real fast is that I've got a great fundraiser coming up for the primary. It's called Artists for Lynn, and we plan to raise hopefully $3,000. I have a whole list of wonderful Alaskan artists that will upload their work and talk about my race a little bit, and I'll be in and out talking about my race as well. We start next Sunday, a week from today at 6 o'clock, and we'll run it for 24 hours. You can see a lot of these artists on Facebook for that 24-hour period. So right now I'm outside and I'm with my band. I'm with the COVID garage band. We play. And I'd like to introduce them real quick. This is Greg. Chris.
Hi.
Monica.
Hi.
And my campaign manager, Judy, is over here, yes. So I want to thank everybody for your support. If you've gotten a phone message from me, it's probably asking, will you please co-host? You know, I would love to have you to co-host. So mostly co-hosting just consists of a donation and kind of spreading the word, at least get 3 or more friends to join us next weekend. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm just really glad to be able to do the things that I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Since you have run 2 campaigns, this is the second campaign you've run. The first campaign was 2 years ago, before we had COVID. Can you tell us how COVID-19 has changed your campaign, and how are you reaching out to voters in a way that is socially responsible?
Oh, thank you. That's a really good question, because I meant to bring this up. I've been making phone calls really since last fall, and I've been talking to the voters and finding out what's important to them. And one of the main things that's been important to them is they don't want to vote in person because of COVID. We are not knocking on doors, so we've really stepped up phone calls. And out of all the people I've talked to, there's only maybe a handful that said they were going to vote in person. And this is over, you know, 6-7 months, you know, that I've been asking this question. Not only that, we have been making sure that people have the link, and if they're not able to a absentee request ballot, we've been hand carrying them to people. So that's been excellent. And then the other thing I've been saying to folks on the phone is, you know, I'm not knocking on doors because of health reasons, but you know, you could really help us out if you take a yard sign. And so most people are saying, yeah, I'd be glad to, if they don't live in a condominium or an apartment. They do. And so we're just reaching people out with lit drops. We're making phone calls. We're doing phone banking. We're doing mail outs. We're doing text to text. Just doing everything I can to reach the voters. And if people are outside when we're delivering signs, I do talk to them. I try to explain to them who I am and what I'm doing and what I stand for and how I really would like to make District 15 a better place for everybody.
Thank you. You have about 30 seconds left. Do you have any last words?
Well, I just want to thank everybody that's there that's helped with my campaign and has stood by me. I really, really appreciate that. And we have the best shot ever of turning District 15, well, in recent years, from red to blue. We can do this. This is really a winnable seat. It's one of the most winnable seats in the state. So any support anybody wants to throw my way, I appreciate it. And I hope everyone is able to tune in next Sunday to Artists for Lynn.
Thank you very much. Our next candidate, also for District 15, is Rick Phillips. Rick?
Hi, thanks for having us. I think it's important that we have these Zoom meetings. It's about the only way we can get to meet everybody and talk to people. My name is Rick Phillips. I'm running for Senate State Representative in District 15. I've lived in District 15 for over 23 years at the same residence. For years, I've been involved in the community affairs in Northeast Anchorage. I regularly attend the Northeast Community Council meetings. When I was asked if I wanted to be a board member, I accepted, and now I'm a standing board member with Northeast Community Council. At a Fair Share meeting event, I asked Vic Fisher if I could use a picture of myself and him that was taken at a Recall Dunleavy gathering at Cuddy Park. And he told me he would be honored to have me use a picture of him. He knows my interests are fighting for Alaska, and Alaskans are his. And I'm also honored that Vic Fisher is endorsing me for state representative in District 15. Vic Fisher is the sole surviving signer of the Alaska Constitution and member of the Constitutional Convention 1955-56. So I just wanted to say that, I support a lot of things, that most candidates are supporting. I support forward funding for education. I don't hear a lot about this, but I support Alaska First Hire. We have the highest unemployment rate, and we should be hiring Alaskans first. I think we need stronger conflicts of interest laws in our legislature. A legislature shouldn't stand up and say, I object when somebody recesses their vote. I think we need a bill to stop drugs from coming into Alaska ports of entry. I was an AB on the Alaska Marine Highway, and when the ferries come up from the lower 48, they can walk right off or drive right off with whatever might be in their vehicle. Also would like to see a bill for constitutionally memorializing the PFD. There's a lot to talk about the PFD. When it was formed, the percentage of what we used to get, 33%, now we're getting 25% for our PFDs. Probably the one thing that I've been supporting since the beginning is the Fair Share initiative. And before the Fair Share initiative, I testified before our constituent meetings. I testify at Alaska caucuses. I've testified before the House Finance Committee a couple of years ago. Last year I testified before the House and Senate Committee that was at the Lusac Library. I've testified a couple years ago when we were trying to get SB 91 removed. I'm involved in the community, but I'm also involved in the state. And I think that everybody's talking about what they want to do, and what we need is revenue. And in 2013, 2014, the legislature gave $11 billion over 5 years to the smaller oil companies in the form of cash credits. Now, the worst part of it was that those were transferable for nickels on the dollar, and to even the largest oil companies. And I attended a Zoom meeting with AOGA and tried to find out if the larger oil companies had got any of those cash credits transferred to them, and I didn't get a good answer from them. So, but in 2014, Senate Bill 21 was passed, and that's been the straw that broke the camel's back as far as I'm concerned. In Alaska, we've lost $19 billion in revenue, $17 billion that we used out of the CBR. In 2014, when it was passed, in less than a year, the state lost $1.6 billion. The next year, in 2015, we lost over $2 billion. We started running in a net negative, meaning we're paying the oil companies to produce our oil, and it has to stop. I have some printouts of some of the years of what we used to get, $2-3 billion, and now we're getting $300 million. So there's a lot of things that we need to do, but we need our fair share from the oil. On page 18 of SB 21, it states that we give the oil companies $8 a barrel tax credit when the oil's under $80 a barrel. That's where we lost all this money in the 1.6 billion and the 2-3 billion after that. So the Fair Share Initiative, it changes the tax structure on the oil companies.
Time is up.
Okay. All right, well, thanks.
Thank you.
I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. We're going to move on to House District 25. Our first candidate is Janice Park. And Janice, hold on a moment while I get to you. Janice, please go ahead.
Hi. Well, I am Janice Park. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to talk to everyone. And if you don't know me, let you learn some of my background. I have a bachelor's degree in nursing, and I went to Cal State Northridge in the public health education program. Did not finish that graduate program, but moved to Alaska. I first came here in 1991. I came back in 92, and in 1992, I was first involved with the Democratic Party of Alaska when I helped Governor Sheffield set up the first Anchorage office for Bill Clinton for president. Since that time, I started a business. I had my own business downtown. We had a store, Alaska Water Systems, where we did water treatment for the slope, for the state, all kinds of local small businesses with which we were partners, and Anchorage homeowners. One of the things I liked the most when I came here was that people would not leave their neighbors by the side of the road. And if you ran out of gas, if your battery was dead, if you got stuck in a snowdrift, somebody would stop and help you. And so the budget that I see coming from Governor Dunleavy is one that leaves our neighbors by the side of the road. I'm especially upset about the cuts to the University of Alaska. During a very hard time in my life, I went to the university in the paralegal program. And with that, I learned the tools that enabled me to argue in the Alaska Supreme Court and save my home. I know what it's like to be in an abusive relationship. I know how drugs touch people's lives and livelihoods. My ex-husband died of a drug overdose, and I'm involved in a lawsuit against the nurse practitioner that made that possible. So I have a real strong love of public health, and that includes treatment for addictions and mental health. That includes public health outreach, which we desperately need. Right now, public health infrastructure has been so neglected that we are completely unprepared for the pandemic in which we find ourselves. And until we get a handle on that, we will not be able to help the state prosper. I was on a call with Representative Drummond last week, in which all of the hospital administrators and public health officials in the state of Alaska talked about all the ways we are at risk, and it is absolutely terrifying. We have CARES Act money pending that the governor intends to use, or has floated the idea of using to make up budget shortfalls. And what we really need to do is invest that money in public health so that more of our neighbors are kept well and don't lose their lives, because we are right now on the upswing in statistics and deaths from COVID that look like Italy. I don't know how much time that was. If I can reserve the remainder of my time, Michelle, I would like to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. You do have a minute and 20 seconds left.
Okay, great.
What would you
So
like
as I said, I have a background in nursing, in public health education, and in business, and as a paralegal. I'm proud also to be endorsed by Vic Fisher and Jane Anvik. I have also been endorsed by Harriet Drummond, who is on this call, by Mark Begich and Chris Tuck. I'm very proud of having a union endorsement because I worked during my life in 4 unions. I was a telephone operator with Communication Workers of America. I worked in a sewing sweatshop where I organized the women who worked there, and it's the kind of business that uses women because it was hard for them to find jobs doing other things. I was able to organize that shop and get a contract. While I was in college, also, I was a retail clerk working for a department store. And as a graduate nurse, I worked giving an in-service in HIV/AIDS prevention in an OSHA-approved class for California Nurses Association. So I respect collective bargaining. I respect those benefits for which people have bargained in good faith, and I absolutely uphold those values. I believe that the values of the Alaska Democratic Party reflect respect for hard work, for justice for everyone, for personal honesty and equity. And I would really appreciate your vote. Anyone who has any questions can always call me at 243-9873. I'm on Facebook at Janice Park for Alaska, and my website is janiceforalaska.com. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Janice, thank you very much. Our next candidate, also for Alaska State House District 25, is Calvin Shrage. Hold on just a moment while Calvin, please go ahead.
Great, yeah, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with you all. I am Calvin Shrage. I am running for State House here in District 25 on Anchorage's Lower Hillside. And, I think like most of my neighbors, friends, and residents of the district here, we're very concerned with the direction our state is headed in. For me personally, as someone that grew up right here in the district and quite literally learned to walk, talk, and ride my bike right here in the neighborhood, as a businessman, graduate of the University of Alaska, Anchorage, and as someone that got married this past fall and is hoping or planning to start his own family here in the district, we're concerned by cuts to public education, cuts to our university, our healthcare system, especially that of mental health, Alaska Marine Highway System, and so many of these other essential services that we really value. And I think our district values those services too. In this last election, progressive candidates won this district. Alyse Galvin won this district. Mark Begich won this district. So we are on the verge of flipping this district from a deep red to a solid progressive blue. So I think that we have a lot of opportunity here. Unfortunately, our current representative and the governor are pushing forward this hyper-partisan agenda of cuts only, of privatizing our economy, and that's something that we've got to move away from. Budgeting based on the price of oil instead of the needs of our people is the opposite of how government should function, and we need to restore some integrity and some good government to Juneau and to the state of Alaska. So that's really the reason that I'm running. We've got to fix the path that we're on. And if elected, I'm committed to fixing the budget and reforming revenues, not taking this cuts only approach, to funding and specifically prioritizing education funding so that we can stop pink slipping teachers year after year. I'm committed to funding healthcare and mental health care services so that if someone needs help and they show up to API, they're not loaded up with meds and turned back onto the street or sent to a prison cell. Protecting workers and their rights to organize and advocate for strong wages and good working conditions. Protecting women's right to reproductive health care and the services provided by Planned Parenthood, and all those things that I in this district really value. So, these elections have consequences. I think we've seen that. We've seen that these past 2 years. And, sadly, the House bipartisan coalition is at risk right now. we paid respect to Gary Knopp here at the beginning of this Zoom, and he really was instrumental in making sure that we survived these major drastic draconian cuts that were pushed forward these past 2 years. And sadly, this coalition is now at risk. It's critical that we win this election. We've got some large headwinds. You know, Mel Gillis, the current representative, he's allied with the governor. He's got rich friends in Texas. He's a rich man himself, and he can self-fund this election. But the good news is that we are building a strong campaign. We're building a network of friends and residents of the district who are willing to chip in and help out, whether it's doing literature drops or helping support this campaign financially. We got an early start and knocked on more than 2,000 doors between December and February. We organized a community food drive this spring to get out, do some good, and reach out to voters to hear what's affecting them and how they need help. We're currently out lit dropping and calling people 7 days a week to make sure that we get our message out, and we're prepared to win this election here in November. So we are working our hardest to make sure that we're able to win this campaign, but you know, we need the support of everyone that's here and everyone that's in the community. So I would invite you all to please take a look at the website. That's calvinforalaska.com. Learn a little bit about me and sign up to get involved in one way or another. We're on Facebook. Our cell phone number is up there, and I'll read it out now in case anyone has a question or wants to get a hold of me, and that's 240-8986. And, you know, I'd also say we've got a fundraiser plan this Thursday that I'd love to invite everyone to. It'll be at 6 o'clock, and we'll have a live event. We'll have some speakers coming out to show their support. And along the lines of support, I'd just like to quickly highlight a few endorsements that we've received. So we've received the endorsement of Eric Croft, Andy Josephson, NEA Alaska, and most importantly, an endorsement that we're really proud of is Pat and Patty Higgins, who have run for this seat before, knows what it takes, and believe that we have a winning campaign here. So please, again, we need help to win this election. It's an important one that we win. Go to the website, calvinforalaska.com, and please get involved. We can do this. We can flip this seat. Need your help. So thank you all for taking a little bit of time out of your evening, and I look forward to talking with you here in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Calvin. I want to thank the people who have spoken so far, our candidates for Alaska State House, Lynn Franks, Rick Phillips, Janice Parks, and Calvin Shrage. Now we want to move on to Alaska Senate District M. Senate District M. Our first candidate is Anita Thorne. She is not able to make it. And I do have a statement from her. Thank you for your invitation. A pressing family issue requires my travel down to Washington State. Scheduling will make it difficult for me to attend Zoom meeting. I appreciate your support as a Democratic candidate in the Senate race. My goal is to have the best person elected to the Senate. We must have a majority so that we can get our state finances in order at this critical time. Anita Thorne. Our next candidate for this race is Andy Holleman. I do not believe he is available right now. So let's see, our next candidate after that is Lynette Hinz for Alaska State Senate seat N, and she is trying to connect right now. In the meantime, let's go to Carl Johnson, who is the other candidate for that race. And let me see if I can find Carl. Carl, are you available to speak now?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, please.
All right, well, thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for joining us tonight for the opportunity to speak to Anchorage Democrats. My name is Carl Johnson. Those of you who don't know me, and I'll tell you a little bit about my background so you understand what brings me to this place. About a year out of high school, I served in the Navy for 4 years, and I did that because that was going to be the only way I was going to go to college, is with the GI Bill to help pay myself through college and also help support my endeavors to go on to law school. After moving to law school, or after leaving law school, I moved to Alaska. And between law school and my time in Alaska, I've had a career of over 20 years in law and policy. During my adult life, I've worked for all three branches of government at the county, tribal, state, and federal level. For my Alaska professional career, most of it was split between being a lawyer, practicing the areas of business, environmental, and Indian law, and then working for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and subsistence management for over 7 years. But now I'm a small business owner, and I'm a tourism operator. And sometimes I joke that I don't know what was the worst decision to run for office or to take over a tourism company right before a pandemic. But those of you who are running can understand that. It's challenging, but it's not impossible. And I want to stress how much this race for Senate N is winnable. You know, Kathy Giesel has this kind of mythos about her, but she is not unbeatable. And in fact, this district only has a 3.5% Republican lead. It's very winnable, and I've been really grateful for the support I've had so far in getting the message out and taking the opportunity to meet people in the district on the phone, of course, like everybody else. We're campaigning responsibly. But it's been a really rewarding effort, and I'm glad that I'm doing it, and I look forward to being one of the people that move us in the right direction in Juneau come January. Now, I'll go ahead and answer some questions if there are some available.
Thank you. The first question I have is, what level of funding do you think is appropriate for the university system, and how would you address or obtain this level of funding?
Well, like everybody else has said, we need to develop revenue for the state. Cutting is not going to get us where we have to go. We have seen what it does to essential government services. We can't afford to do it. The level of funding we need is the funding that meets the capital and maintenance needs as outlined by the university system. It's not really that much when you compare the other kinds of things we're spending money on that don't provide the benefit to all of Alaskans like a robust university system does. We also need to have a level of funding that restores the over 40 programs that the university had to cut because of the ridiculous slashes in its budget, and which of course impaired its ability to have basic programs like Masters in English and Sociology and Theater and Dance. So those are the kind of levels of funding we need for the university.
Thank you. How would you propose to address the high cost of healthcare in the state?
Well, that's a tough one. And unfortunately, we have to have willing partners at the federal level in order to address that. But we have to look why costs are so expensive in Alaska. We need to make sure that we do not reverse the expansion of Medicaid. I know there are some people in the legislature right now, including Kathy Giesel, who want to reverse those expansions. So, and especially at a time of a pandemic, is not a time to be taking away healthcare from people. But we'll have to look at what can be done to control costs legislatively, including how insurance is paid out on primary healthcare.
Thank you. You have about a minute left. Would you like to say some closing remarks?
Certainly. I'd first like to, I'm not going to talk a lot about my issues because a lot of them are some of the ones that people have shared already, but please visit my website. It's carl4alaska.com. That's Carl number 4alaska.com. You can see my issues there and learn a bit more about my background. I would very much like people to support this campaign. It's an important seat. It's a winnable seat. And there is a lot of opportunity to network and think creatively, and we have to do that during this campaign cycle. So appreciate anybody if you want to support the campaign. We could use some help. We've got a great volunteer coordinator in Mackenzie Pope. We have a great finance director in Jeremy Houston. And I know that my campaign managers, John and Heather Orono, would like to put everybody to good work. And then, of course, I would appreciate your vote in the primary. And I look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Andy Holleman, who is running for Alaska State Senate M, has joined us, and so I will be going to him. Andy, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. As you said, I'm an independent candidate for Senate M. I am in the process of collecting signatures right now. So if you are from M or you know anyone from there, if you could have them get in touch with me, that would be awesome. I do have a track record in a couple of different ways, starting my second term on the Anchorage School District School Board. So I've got a bit of name recognition from there. I do want to apologize to all of you for being late. We just stepped off the boat down in Seward. So I look a lot scuzzier than I will in a couple of days. I'm going to take care of that. Let me get the signatures and I will be on the ballot. I am looking very much for your support. I've done a lot of work for the Consolidated campaign in the past and different things. And I think I'm very aligned with the progressive values that you all hold, and would appreciate your support and be glad to answer any direct questions.
Thank you very much. Let me just go to my questions. What in your background would make you a good legislator?
I'm going to say in the short run, I can do math. And the single biggest thing we've got facing us is the budget. I do believe in coming to the budget with everything on the table. I'm not a supporter of the full and past PFDs. I want us to basically have what we've had. I think we are looking at cuts in order to get a sustainable budget, a predictable budget, but they need to be cuts that can be agreed with in a bipartisan way and carry into the future, and they need to be gradual. So that is the main thing that has concerned me so much. I look at it from education. If we have stability, we can do a much better job, even if we're dealing with reductions. But the continued uncertainty is very disruptive, and it's very consumptive to state agencies that keep trying to plan and replan as a session progresses. So working hard to come up with a consensus on where we're at. I do think it's going to mean more revenue. I do think that it's going to be a budget that everybody's unhappy with to a certain degree. If we manage to achieve that and I never get voted in again, I'm quite happy with that. So I've worked with the school district budget a lot. I've spent a lot of time talking to the public about why we need what we need, why we're doing what we're doing. And I seem to have had a fair amount of success with that. And that's what I would come back as a legislator to get something that's workable on into the future for the state and have my constituents understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Thank you very much. You have about 30 seconds left. Do you have any last minute things to say?
I'll just say that a lot of people in the district are upset with the incumbent. He used to be pretty adamant to the far right. He's been very quiet ever since he got an appointment into the Senate. So there's a lot of negative feeling for him within the Republican Party and within the right wing of that party, where he used to get a lot of his support. He hasn't lived here long. He doesn't have a lot of deep roots in the community. I think he's susceptible, and I've been in South Anchorage for more than 30 years. Know the community councils, know a lot of the community leaders. With support from you folks, I think we can turn this around.
Thank you very much. Our last candidate for State Senate is Lynette Hinz. Lynette has been trying to connect, but she hasn't been able to do so. So in the meantime, I wanted to move on to our last speakers. First of all, I would like to thank the candidates for State Senate: Anita Thorne, Andy Holleman, Carl Johnson, and Lynette Hinz. Our next speaker is Malcom Phelan with the Alyse Galvin campaign. Malcom, please go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for that, Michelle. Alyse really wanted to be here, but asked me to come in her place just to say thank you so much to everyone for all the support and to give you an update on the race. As Michelle said, I'm Malcom Phelan. I'm Alyse Galvin's campaign manager. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much to everyone who has stepped up to run on this call. And I think that, you all are very well aware how hard it is to run for office, how much you put on the line, how much you sacrifice. So thank you to each of you for stepping up to run. It really means a lot. And then thanks to everyone who's watching this on a Sunday evening in the summer. Anchorage Dems. I mean, you're doing really fantastic work. So thanks for everything that you do and for making sure that democracy is not just a spectator sport. So thanks for rolling up your sleeves and jumping in. So update on the race, some exciting stuff going on. I'm sure you've seen the polls. We are not taking a single vote for granted, but we are currently, the latest poll that came out in July has us at 43% and our 47-year incumbent at 41%. So the poll shows the very slight edge, but again, not taking anything for granted at all. Just very, very promising. Fundraising. And I think many of you on this call have probably gotten letters and calls and so many different things from us. And I just want to say thank you because, again, you have come through in a very big way for years now, not only Alyse's first run, but then this time around. So we have raised over $2 million already. So we've already raised everything that Alyse raised in 2018, and we've got more donors from Alaska than any other congressional race in Alaska's history. So very, very excited for that. So thank you again if you've been one of the folks supporting us there. We're aiming for $4 million, so we're doubling what Alyse raised in 2018, because what we know is that if we get our message out, we win. That is what our polls tell us. If they hear about a new Alaskan voice that's actually going to represent them and represent the values that Alaskans hold, bring down the cost of healthcare, rebuild the Alaskan economy, like all of the things that are kind of at a crisis point for the state, having new leadership in place who's ready to work with the majority on that, work with the Democrats to bring back the federal funds and support that Alaska needs. When people hear that, they're ready to vote for new leadership. So we're very excited for that. Thanks again to all who've supported there. And then volunteers. We've held over our first events, as soon as coronavirus hit, as so many on this call, had to immediately pivot everything to endless Zoom calls. And so many of us, are on 6 of these a day, but we've held over 100 virtual fundraisers, and we've got 100 house meetings planned in the works already, and we want to add at least 300 more. So my quick pitch, if anyone wants to host a house meeting to get your community engaged and talk about values and what you'd like to see in your community, reach out to our team, and we'd love to connect you with our field team, which takes me to my next point. And I don't know, Michelle, how am I doing on time? Got another minute, maybe 30
You
seconds?
have about a minute 50 seconds.
Minute 50. Oh, fantastic. I'll take it. So one of the big things that we're trying to do on this race, and that I'm really excited that a lot of other campaigns are starting to do, is something called relational organizing. What that means is there's nothing more powerful than when a friend talks to a friend about a candidate or about an initiative or something that they care about, because they know that they share values already and it's a trusted source. I mean, we can always do cold calls, and all of you, have knocked on countless doors, but we know that it makes a huge difference when a friend of yours or you reach out to a friend. So what we're trying to do is, as quickly as we can, we're trying to reach as many people and help them map their networks that they're a part of. The church, their faith community, their sports team, the schools that their kids go to, all that sort of thing, like all the different circles they're a part of. And then we work with them after they've identified their big network on how to engage them. So most people will host a house party and will invite everybody to come. Some will text folks, will call them. And a lot of it's a conversation where it's like, we need to step up. Our state and our country are in crisis. Let's talk about what we value and what we want to see. And people really respond well to that. Like people aren't asked about their opinions much, or about what they care about and what they want to see in the world. And so, and so many of you on this call, when you knock on doors, at first it's really scary. And then as soon as people answer the door and they're like, you're here to ask me what I care about, that's wild. Yeah, sure, let's talk. And that's how you build relationships. So we're trying to do that through people's existing networks, because obviously coronavirus is making it a whole lot harder to get out and see people. So you'll probably be hearing a lot from us on that. And if you've got any interest, it would be incredibly helpful if you want to reach out. And the big part of this is kind of leaving things better than we found them. After people have mapped and engaged their network around causes and campaigns they care about, they'll do that again in the future. They'll do that again when a friend is running for school board, or when they really want to get better leadership in for their state rep. Like, this is the sort of thing where as people realize they can have a voice in their community, they will continue to use and grow that voice and power. So I think that's probably my time, but
Yes,
thank you again to everybody. Oh, and my last plug, please get everyone you know to vote by mail. That is we're really pushing hard for that. It's going to be hard to find poll workers, so the more folks we can get to vote by mail, the better.
Thank you. The next person to speak is Kay Brown, who will be speaking on, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to find Kay here. Ah, there she is. Kay, you are speaking on the 2020 Joe Biden presidential campaign. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be able to say a few words on behalf of Joe Biden's bid for the presidency. I'm Kay Brown. I'm a volunteer with Alaskans for Biden. Our country needs a leader now who will rise to the challenges we face, and I know you're all very well aware of them. We need somebody with strength and common sense and competence, the capacity for empathy, and who knows what it means to struggle. Somebody who will work for equality and justice and civil rights and human rights. Joe Biden is that person, and we've never needed strong leadership more than now. Biden takes the COVID crisis seriously, and he'll provide the leadership our country needs to get this under control. The economy is in free fall, and we can thank Trump and the Republicans who enable him for that. They've literally wrecked the economy and caused needless deaths by abdicating their responsibility to lead. And so we desperately need Joe Biden to rise up and be a leader for us. And you can read all about his policies, how he plans to address the pandemic, build back better, and speed the economic recovery at joebiden.com. And he has detailed policies on a wide range of things up there on the internet, and I commend those to you. Just briefly, as we wrap up here tonight, I want to say how important it is that we stand united and that we show up. We can see in history when our team and people of like minds are united, we can win. And when we are divided, we lose. So let's stay unified. Let's stay focused on the goal. Never have our votes mattered as much as they do now. And never has our democracy hung more starkly in the balance than it does at this moment. Alaskans for Biden is a homegrown volunteer group. We are working with the National Biden Campaign and the Alaska Democratic Party to help elect Joe Biden. And more than 1,500 Alaskans have endorsed, contributed, or participated in one of our grassroots activities. We're excited by the possibility of flipping Alaska from red to blue in 2020. And although our 3 electoral votes as a state are a small piece of the big picture to get to 270 for victory, Alaska nevertheless has a really crucial role to play in this election. We can help make it a national landslide for Biden, and we can help flip the United States Senate to Democratic control and secure strong leadership in the Democratic House of Representatives by electing Al Gross and Alyse Galvin. We have a great ticket, and a strong turnout for Biden will help the whole ticket. We're working to get Democratic victories from the State House and State Senate and all the way up the ballot. And I too want to thank all of you, especially the candidates who put yourself out there and who are making personal sacrifices to run and serve in public office. The key here is turnout, and turnout depends on motivation. So how are we going to motivate people to show up? Getting Trump and his enablers out of office is a very big motivator. And recent polls showed Trump's approval rating here continues to sink. He's well underwater, and Biden is within striking distance or even statistically tied. Biden can beat Trump here, yes, in Alaska, And I hope you'll help us make that happen by getting even more active in the election. Alaskans for Biden is going to be hosting a series of Tuesday town halls noon on Tuesdays through the summer and fall. Alaska Women for Biden will be holding the first one on Tuesday, August 11th at noon. We have signs, we have bumper stickers and swag. We're going to turn Alaska blue, and we invite you to join us. The information, you can reach us, alaskansforbiden@gmail.com or at 907-360-2288. We also have a Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook. So I hope you'll invest, volunteer, and vote. Get everyone out to vote. Thank you very much.
In closing, I would like to let everybody know that there's a way to get an absentee ballot. Make sure your vote is counted, and you can vote from home. I believe that we have until August 8th to request an absentee ballot that you can then fill out at home and submit to the Division of Elections. So please go ahead and if you have not already done so, request an absentee ballot. It's about a 5-minute process, depending upon whether or not you're using a laptop or an iPad, and it's really straightforward. Next, I want to thank all of the people who participated in this forum. Dr. Al Gross, candidate for U.S. Senate, Professor Edgar Blatchford, candidate for U.S. Senate, Malcom Phelan, who is the campaign manager for Alyse Galvin, Kay Brown, who just spoke for the Joe Biden presidential campaign, and our state and House and Senate candidates, Alaska State House District 15, Lynn Franks, Rick Phillips, Alaska State House District 25, Janice Parks and Calvin Shrage, Alaska State Senate Seat M, Andy Holleman and Anita Thorne, and Alaska State Senate N, Lynette Hinz and Carl Johnson. And I will say Lynette has been in contact with us. She was having technical difficulties connecting, and that is why she was unable to attend. So thank you everyone for participating. The slide up shows the contact information or the websites for all of the participants. Please consider donating to these participants, supporting their campaigns in another way, volunteering, putting bumper stickers or signs. We need everybody to work together to turn Alaska blue. And on that note, there are other Democrats in contested races in the Anchorage area. James Canids in Eagle River, Bruce Batten in Eagle River, Ivy Sponholtz, Matt Clayman, Chris Tuck, Sue Levi, Liz Snyder, Adam Lees, all for State House, and then for State Senate, Bill Wilikowski and Rosalind Casey. These are Democrats in contested races, and they would very much appreciate your support and donations. In addition, we here at the Anchorage Democrats would appreciate your support. Please join us for our monthly meetings. They are the fourth Monday of every month at 5:30. Currently, they are via Zoom, and they last about an hour and a half. Please go to our website, anchoragedemocrats.org, or email us at info@anchoragedems.org. You can donate to Anchorage Democrats via our website at anchoragedems.org. And I want to highlight the Mary McKinnon Fund. Anchorage Democrats is hosting a Mary McKinnon fundraiser in coordination with the SCC meeting late in September, in August, later October, in August. The Mary McKinnon fundraiser is the Mary McKinnon Fund supports first-time women candidates. This is a very useful fund for getting women to be really viable candidates. And as the saying goes, early money is like yeast. First-time women candidates, it's very important to get early funding to first-time women candidates, and I highly recommend that you support them or support the Mary McKinnon Fund. you can send a check to the address that's on your screen. Also, Anchorage Democrats are working with the coordinated campaign, and we would love to get your assistance with Get Out the Vote. We're meeting on Tuesdays and Sundays starting on August 4th through Election Day. Please email mindy@alaskademocrats.org or alaskahd17dems@anchoragedems.org for more information. And again, thank you very much to everybody who made this possible, the people who are working behind the scenes, and the candidates who spoke. And we look forward to seeing you out on the campaign trail. Thank you.